Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it may be for you. Hello, I hope you're doing well. My last video completely popped off. As of recording this, I'm actually watching the view count live. It's about 400 views away from being my first video over 100,000 views, which is absolutely insane to think about. So if you contributed to that in some way, thank you. Last time we talked about Halo Infinite's 22 secret weapons. Some of you obviously already knew about them, but obviously you can't always rely on everyone around you knowing the exact same information as you do. So today, you've probably seen this around, that Halo Infinite is holding some secret game modes behind a very thin veil. The only current way to access them is to open Halo Infinite in offline mode, and then they will all be available to you. So today, we are gonna go over Halo Infinite's roughly 12 to 14 secret game modes. All right, number one, you've probably seen this word thrown around a little bit. If you haven't, well then, here you go. Attrition. Realistically, it's just attrition, but just to specify, it's for arena, it is not for BTB. In attrition, each team starts with a pool of 8 lives. After your pool of respawns or lives are depleted, you can be revived if you are killed. So as you can see here in the gameplay, if I were to die, I'll respawn immediately. However, when that pool of 8 lives is completely gone, if I go down, my teammate's gonna need to revive me. But if that is not possible and our entire team is eliminated, then the other team wins that round. Similar to Oddibl, it's first team to 2 round wins the entire game. Revives take 3 seconds to pull off. You'll see some gameplay here. When they are happening, your weapon is technically lowered. You really can't move. You can look in any direction. I know there are some games where when you're looking at a particular button or objective in which you need to hold a button down, sometimes if you look fully away, it will actually stop that animation and will stop allowing you to continue it. But something like, it's kind of similar to Valorant when you're planting the spike. You can look anywhere to make sure that, you know, people are not coming up behind you, etc. And that's basically it. I played this against bots because I didn't know if I was going to be able to actually bookmark these and use them online. I found out later that that was the case, that I could do that.
Oh, you're a fucker, Jacob. You're a piece of shit. Dude.
Don't run away. Don't run away, Courtney. Don't run away, Courtney. Come back, Courtney.
Run, Courtney,
Come
run.
back, Courtney. Come back, Courtney. You're gonna die.
Oh, you don't know what you're gonna face right now. You have no clue the kind of finesse is about to pull on you. Like, you have no clue. Okay.
I want to
Run it back right now.
So you'll see gameplay of that and other modes that I got some gameplay of, but honestly, ton of fun. It is a social match, so you do start with you do start with ARs and sidekicks, other typical stuff, radar, etc. There are a slew of options to customize in the custom game menu, however. You can set the respawn count up to 100. You can set if and how long you can revive allies, which goes up to like 60 seconds of how long it would take. Something to note if teams are not being super aggressive on either side, there is actually, well, maybe not super aggressive, but there is a danger zone, a red zone. You may have seen this in a leaked gameplay of this mode a few months ago. It was like rumors of like, oh my God, there's a red zone closing in, and whoa, revives, whoa, battle royale. But it was just this mode. So once the life pool of both teams has been depleted, there is actually a danger zone that will start closing in around the entire map. It's this little red ring that will close into a small section of the map, and then from there, it will still continue to close, but at a much, much slower pace until eventually, everybody's gonna die. If somehow you haven't killed the other person, you will eventually die. But something very interesting to note that I was kind of surprised at, seemingly the danger zone will never start to close unless the life pool of both teams are depleted. So realistically, I mean, maybe it's like set to 30 minutes. I don't know, but I wait around for like 12 to 15 minutes, you know, just waiting to see if maybe you would hit a particular soft cap or start, which like they're like, okay, they haven't killed each other yet. Like, let's start this danger zone going, like let's get this round over with. But 12 to 15 minutes later, and it never started. So realistically, you could probably just hang around in the game for as long as you want. I don't know. Unless it's like an absurdly high time that they'll be like, all right, danger zone incoming. But the time just goes up. It doesn't go down. So yeah, do with that information, which whatever you want to do. But that is one element that we haven't really seen in past Halo games, in which a danger zone starts closing in. It would have been very interesting to see that in Breakout from Halo 5. Some other settings in the attrition menu are a capture zone. And essentially, after a certain amount of time, a zone will appear in which if you capture it, you'll win the round. For the capturing team will win the round instead of having to actually do the work of killing the enemy team. You can also set how long it takes for the capture zone to spawn in, or like the delay at which however long it takes to spawn in, and how long it takes to capture it. Now, those are some settings in the attrition menu, but in the actual attrition base mode, the capture zone, from my research and from what I've done, it actually never spawns. So that brings us to our next mode, Attrition Dodgeball. And honestly, when I first heard this name, I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna be playing around with like fusion coils, maybe some plasma grenades, stuff like that. But honestly, it has not necessarily very little to do with what the actual mode is, but here's basically how it works. So teams will start with a pool of 4 lives each. 4 is the actual max amount of lives you can have in your pool. And what I mean by max is that the way that this game mode works is if you die, obviously your pool loses 1 life and then you're down to 3. But if you kill an enemy, you will actually gain a life to your pool. Something to also note, revives on this mode are completely disabled. You will not respawn unless 1, you have some lives in your pool, or 2, if your life pool is completely depleted, you will not respawn until your team kills someone from the enemy team. Once your lives are fully depleted and your team has been fully eliminated, the round is then over. Honestly, watching some gameplay of this, and just if you just stare at the bottom bar, the tide of this game mode in particular, can shift very, very quickly. I saw some moments where the enemy team, or even my team, had like 4 lives in our life pool, and the other team didn't have any. But if they successfully killed all 4 of us, and none of us were able to kill one of them, the power of that match has been completely shifted to their side. I don't know, it's just very interesting to watch. It's gonna be a very interesting game mode to eventually play and to partake in. I've always been very interested in single life or multiple life game types, not the typical Slayer ones, but stuff like Valorant, stuff like Arena in Apex. And obviously Breakout. I loved Breakout from Halo 5. I wish I would have played it more until they plopped out a V2 version and then eventually ruined the V1 version by one particular setting change that some of you probably know what I'm talking about. But this is the same. It works the same way as the last Attrition game mode, in which it takes 2 rounds to win the entire game. There is a 4-minute timer, and the way that works is if the 4-minute timer runs out, a zone will spawn in, probably in the very middle of the map, and whichever team gets to that zone once it spawns in and captures it fully, they will win the round. Otherwise, there's a little sudden death timer, and if that runs out, if nobody is in the zone capturing it, if that timer runs out in the center of your center bottom of your screen, the round will then end in a tie. Regardless of who has more lives on each side, it will always end in a tie. And with this mode, there is no danger zone. The only quote-unquote danger zone is the zone in the center that you'll need to capture. But yeah, that is Attrition Dodgeball. Not so much about dodging any actual balls, more so about, if you know how to play dodgeball, then this will make a bit more sense to you. All right, moving on to mode number 3, we have Elimination. And for those of you, like I said before, if any of you are actual fans of Breakout from Halo 5, this won't completely satisfy, the absence of this mode in Halo Infinite, but it should help a little bit. This is basically Breakout, but with some changes. 5 rounds to win in the social version of the match, coming out to 9 rounds in total. There are no, Breakout forged maps like we saw in Halo 5, where your footsteps would leave a trail wherever you went. I loved the aesthetic of those maps, and it was a wonderful time, but I do also really enjoy the maps made in Halo Infinite, as well as in this mode, you do still have full health and shields. You're not missing a shield bar. There is no SMG. You spawn in with an AR, a sidekick, and your team starts with 0 lives. If you go down, you need to be revived, which I'm actually really excited and happy about. While it was fantastic to pull off, 1v3s, 1v4s in Breakout, it was a bit easier there because, the enemy team didn't have shields for you to worry about. You could pop a magnum shot, 2 or 3 times, basically 3 headshots with the magnum, or it would be 2 shots with the BR. It was a lot easier to pull off 1v3s, 1v4s, and I like this dynamic with the revives. So, if you get the chance to pull off a revive, then the power has shifted a bit more in your favor, and I think you're gonna have to play very selectively, and it adds a very interesting element. It's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out, not only in social but also in ranked, and I'll get to that in a second. So like I said, it's AR sidekick starts, and again, revives still take 3 seconds to pull off, but something interesting is that you actually only spawn with 1 frag grenade in both modes instead of the normal 2, which you spawn with 2 frag grenades in the previous 2 modes that I mentioned. Most, if not all, power-ups and power weapons do not spawn at the beginning of the round. They actually spawn about 30 seconds in, and 30 seconds in, you will get a warning saying that the danger zone, like we talked about before, will start to close around the map in 30 seconds. So after a minute of the match, if neither team has been fully eliminated, the danger zone will start to close in, and it takes about 30 seconds for it to fully close into a small section of the map, and then 30 seconds later, it will then start to close again slower, until there is no more of the map that is safe to be on. You'd probably have to pit some very, very equal skilled teams against each other for a situation like that to happen. But again, an element that I adding to this type of mode, this type of breakout mode, that I think would be very interesting. It would have been very interesting to see something like that happen in Halo 5, but it wouldn't really be able to happen. I think this is kind of making up for the absence of a flag capture, an objective to also potentially help you win the round like we had in Halo 5. So again, it'll be interesting. There is no objective. Again, friendly fire is still disabled because it's a social mode. I think that's basically it. All right, moving on to mode number 4. This is, like we said before, it's elimination, but it is ranked. So the main differences is with this one, it's actually 7 rounds to win versus 5 rounds. So you could play out 13 total rounds in this mode. It could go for quite some time. It's kind of giving me not really Valorant vibes, but I have played some Valorant games that, afterwards I'm like, wow, I was in that game for 50 minutes or 60 minutes. There are some Valorant games that can play out for a very, very, very long time. If you get to a 12v12 stalemate, or even in ranked, if you get to a point where you're going into OT, those games can last for a very long time. And obviously I don't see this happening here. But again, 7 rounds to win. It's BR starts. You have no secondary. It's still 1 frag grenade. Revives still take 3 seconds. Friendly fire is enabled. And of course, there is still no objective. Very, very similar. It's basically ranked settings. It's gonna be very interesting. I was super excited to see, when I first saw and figured out what the elimination mode was, I was like, holy shit, please let there be a ranked version of this. And I swapped pages and I was like, oh my God, there is a ranked version. And I'm very excited. I don't know if we'll ever see this in HCS, in the Halo Championship Series, having the pros play it. I'd be surprised if we would, it could be something very interesting. It's not, I don't think it's too far off from Breakout in Halo 5. I know they built Breakout in Halo 5 to be this super hyper competitive mode that they were hoping that the pros would kind of adopt and open, accept with open arms, but they hated it so much that they got the devs, or the HCS handlers, to essentially drop it within, I think I remember, a few months of the game. Breakout was dropped from the potential game modes that the pros would play very, very quickly. And it sucked to see that, because watching behind the scene videos of Breakout, they've put a lot of time and care into that mode, and they put a lot of testing, etc. And to just kind of see the intended audience drop it so quickly, I can't imagine how much of a heartbreak that must have been for whoever put the most out of themselves into that creative piece of art. So now that it's somewhat back, but with full shields, with full health, with not as many changes to the baseline modes, Slayer, CTF, etc., we might see this in HCS, sometime. It could be interesting to see if the pros would accept this sort of thing and make it interesting. I think could be play out super well. We'll see if this either only makes it to the ranked playlist, or if it will also make it up on the big screen. All right, the next few modes are gonna go kind of quick. We have Fiesta Attrition, which is the first mode that we talked about, but it is just with random weapons. I actually had a lot of fun playing this as well. It gets a bit more hectic, as you can imagine, because of the random weapons. I'm also very curious, if you saw the last video where I talked about the weapon variants, I'm curious on, we'll probably eventually get a Super Fiesta that will include those modes, but I would love to see a Super Fiesta of Attrition. It'd be crazy to see, you spawn in with a Sentinel Beam and you're like, okay, I could do this. And then you got someone across the map with an Arcane Sentinel Beam, just literally ripping and tearing through your entire team. But moving on, that was number 5, Fiesta Attrition. We have number 6, Fiesta CTF, Fiesta Strongholds being number 7, and there was also Fiesta One Flag CTF. I'm not really gonna include that in here because it's the same thing as CTF, it's just more boring And then we have Tactical Slayer. I don't know why they've chosen to change the name because this is just SWAT. I don't know what choice or decision that was. Maybe they're just changing it for the sake of changing it, but Tactical Slayer is just SWAT. The normal version of the mode is BR starts. And then game mode 9, 10, 11, and 12 is Tactical Slayer Commandos, Manglers, Sidekicks, and Stalker Rifles, which would be very interesting to experience. I think Manglers would actually be very interesting to experience considering how big of a bullet drop off that gun has. While it is a very powerful gun, if you've noticed, if you used it kind of even medium range, that bullet drops quite quickly. But as you can see here, I recorded some gameplay of me playing normal SWAT. I'm not a huge fan of SWAT. My chat knows this. We've had a lot of debates and fights over the mode. Yeah, I think like as like a warm-up mode or as like a, I'm just gonna turn my brain off and shoot heads, yeah, sure, but like it's definitely nowhere near my top 5 or even probably top 10 game mode list. But for those of you who are fans of SWAT, I mean, obviously creating it isn't very difficult. You literally just need to turn your shields off. But you know, the mode is eventually going to come in. We've already heard from Unishek that hopefully within the next week or two, before the holidays, before Christmas, we should see, I believe, SWAT, Free-for-all, and Fiesta return to matchmaking, hopefully permanently. All right, before you start commenting, I apologize. This audio was recorded a few days ago before Unishek and 343 announced that we are getting a permanent Slayer, SWAT, Fiesta, and FFA mode tomorrow. Technically, this is Monday right now that I'm finishing the video. So I know of that now, and technically, yeah, the Tactical Slayer playlists here are that I'm mentioning are no longer, a secret. It's SWAT. It's no longer a secret, but I included it in this list because, while they exist and while they're very easy to make, they again were not accessible. So that is why I included them, but in 24 hours, they're about to be nullified from the list. But yeah, so those are the quote-unquote 12 hidden game modes in Halo Infinite. If you've heard about them already, then hopefully this video kind of opened your eyes up to, what each one particularly is about and what the details are of them are. If you haven't heard about them, well then, hopefully this video helped, teach you something and maybe got you excited for these modes to eventually make their way into matchmaking. Anyways, that is gonna do it for me. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. Leave a like if you did. Comment whichever mode you think is gonna be the most interesting one to play. Honestly, again, like I said, I already played some ranked elimination with some friends last night. It was an absolute blast. I cannot wait for that mode to eventually make it into matchmaking. Subscribe if you're new. I definitely have much more content coming out. I appreciate all the support you guys have given me on the last few videos, but that's gonna do it for me. I also stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 p.m. Central. If you wanna come hang out, we play Halo majority of the time, if not all of the time. And then lastly, if you have no one really to play Halo with, I do have a Discord if you'd like to come join, find some friends or some people to play Halo with, create more memories, new experiences, etc. That's gonna be discord.gg/nadegod, and that's gonna do it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Nice. That
Closing in on Sav Severin, high-ranking banished target. He's got a lot of blood on his hands. Time for some payback.
Okay, wait. We might have.